Laker Nation, tonight we had another game, and this was at Staples Center. And, you know how it went. You know who we played? The Phoenix Suns. And the Phoenix Suns right now are the best team in the NBA versus a very depleted, very energyless Lakers team. And there's a lot I want to go over in this podcast. It doesn't really have to do with the game. It has to do with a lot of talk about the Lakers. And I would like to share my thoughts on that while also bringing up this game. And that's all coming up next on the Film Room Podcast. So Laker Nation, here we are, right in the thick of it. And things are not going to plan. I know you all know this because you see our record. We go on a 3-game winning streak, and then we lose 3 in a row. 1 to Minnesota, 2 to Chicago, and now tonight to Phoenix. Now I know what you're thinking. Derek, this is a bad Lakers team. And although, yes, we have looked like a bad Lakers team, I have the answer. I do. Now, I know y'all know what you see out on the floor. Now, I alluded to it a podcast or two ago. I mentioned that when they thought about this roster and when they thought about putting this team together and doing a whole rebuild and only bringing back LeBron James, THT, and Anthony Davis, there would be some growing pains. And these are the growing pains. We started off looking good, in control, hanging in there, and then the game kind of got out of hand. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But first, what I want to talk about is a lot of rumblings that's been going on for the past week or so. And in Laker Nation world, it's probably been going on since the beginning of preseason. And that is, what is going on with AD? Now, there's been a lot, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot of blame being put on AD. Trade talks. How he's not playing aggressive. How he's not playing with no energy. How he's playing soft. And all of it is focused around AD. And in my last podcast, I mentioned maybe it's time to look at trading AD. Now, I know what you're thinking. You seen my podcast, and you heard me say, maybe we need to trade Russell Westbrook. But this, ladies and gentlemen, has been all about AD. So let's go to some of the NBA analysts I love to watch and love to hear from. And I'm going to play these clips right now.
Now, on Anthony Davis, Broussard, Anthony Davis last year was 21-7. That can't happen. This year, he is 24-10. And he is better than he was last year. And he is more so as the years evolved, shooting fewer threes, which is probably because he's shooting 19% from 3. And he's playing more minutes at center, as we all have demanded. So I also think it is, right now it is, because of his talent, Anthony Davis being the 10th best player in the world is underachieving, right? He needs to be in that top 7, top 6, maybe top 5, discussion with Steph, Durant, Giannis. I'm leaving somebody obvious out other than LeBron. My apologies. I'll think of him in a moment. And he needs to be in that sphere, in that echelon, and he hasn't played to that level. But I also think that some of the criticism of Anthony Davis by a guy like Barkley could be good for him. I think Barkley last year called him street clothes, and then the poor guy tried to play a playoff game with a torn groin. I think in direct response to Chuck, he's like, oh, you think I'm soft? I'll go out here on one leg. So I do think AD needs to be better. I do think LeBron needs to be more available. And I do think Vogel needs to be smarter with some obvious decisions. All of that is fair to me.
Now, Nick Wright hit it right on the head. He mentioned all three. So I'm not going to discuss his too much because Nick Wright, in my book, is always right. I'm going to go to the next one.
LeBron and AD wanted this. They wanted it. And I stay with it, Key. I stay with it. I don't make the move of letting Russell Westbrook go. I stick with it. I do think it can work. I do think there are other things that the Lakers could do. But you're even asking me, depending upon what moves they make, like I think adding a guy like Christian Wood would really help, to be frank with you. But I still don't see even the Lakers at full strength beating the Golden State Warriors or beating the Suns. Like, I still think that the Lakers are one level below those two teams.
Question. Let's assume Westbrook has a great second half. He always does. First half, no good. New team, new teammates. Let's say he has a great second half.
So Jay Williams mentioned that the Lakers aren't fitting right. That they're in a lower place than the Warriors and the Phoenix Suns. Which is obvious because the Phoenix Suns is the number one team in the NBA and the Warriors are the number two. Now, I will say this. They brought back all of their pieces. The Phoenix Suns has the exact same roster, if not maybe one or two pickups. All of their fans, their coaching staff, everybody came back for the Phoenix Suns. I mean, everybody. They didn't drop one cheerleader, not one employee. Everybody kept their job. And they all came back. So the continuity is going to be there. Now the Warriors. Let's say the Warriors. The Warriors last year almost beat the Lakers to get into the playoffs. The Warriors has also been another team that has been playing very well this season. And they picked up, I guess, some pieces. But the main piece that they picked up was Iggy. Having Iggy back in that locker room has done wonders for this team, I guarantee you. And they also brought back a lot of pieces. So it's no wonder why they're playing this well, this early on. Now, had the Lakers had every piece that we picked up from start to now, I'm sure we would look a lot different. And if we ever get the opportunity to get all of our players instead of the 9 we got now, then this team would look a lot different. So Laker Nation and everybody in the sports world and the basketball world is panicking about these Lakers. And I know I watch the games. I panic too. But listen, Laker Nation. This is nothing. This loss tonight to the Phoenix Suns, listen. Had they not thrown Carmelo Anthony out, this may be a different look. We may not go down as much. And guess what? We're still without 9 players. You know what I mean? We're still without 9 players. 8 or 9, one of them. Head coach is gone. So when I tell you that don't hit the panic button yet, don't hit the panic button yet. We gonna be all right. Now, if we never get our players back and if we keep going in the health and safety protocol because of Omicron, then yes, hit that panic button. But with all our pieces in place, let us get about 10 games in with the same rotations, the same starters, the same bench players, and listen. Are we going up? Let's go to my next one. Colin Hurd. Let's listen to his take.
I want to start with this. Lakers-Celtics played last night, but the bigger issue, it's a regular season game. Let's not make too much of it. The bigger issue, though, these are the two biggest brands in the NBA, and they're both kind of in trouble. I'm going to address the Lakers for the first 5 minutes, and then I'm going to address the Celtics after that in a different topic. So let's start with the Lakers. These are big brands. Historically, Celtics, Lakers, biggest two. This is the Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox, whatever, Cubs, Cardinals of baseball. It's the Notre Dame and Alabama, Ohio State of football. And the Lakers have a little bit of a problem. And Charles Barkley, as LeBron turns 37 in a couple of weeks, knows the problem. It's AD. In baseball, it's different. If you're a pitcher and you have great stuff, you're an ace. Regardless of your personality, you are an ace. You take the ball, you control the pace of the game, you control virtually everything. But it's different in basketball. Teammates, passing, play both ends of the floor. So many things that matter. In basketball, a general manager told me this years ago. It's not about getting a franchise player, it's about getting the right one. Talent alone doesn't make you a one. The Knicks thought Carmelo Anthony was, and he wasn't. He wasn't going to commit physically on the defensive end. He wasn't a grinder, and that's Anthony Davis. He's not physically dependable. He doesn't elevate others. He's just really talented. And right now in the NBA, we have three great players, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and Anthony Davis, and they are ones in talent, but twos. You cannot depend on Kawhi. He doesn't elevate others. He's not physically available. Anthony Davis is not a grinder. Your best player, Tim Duncan, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Magic Johnson have to be your hardest workers, your most focused basketball players. They have to be willful and driven and elevate others. Anthony Davis is just talented. Harden's just talented. Kawhi's just talented. You got to have some dog and some alpha. You got to want to be the first into the weight room and the last out. And this is the Lakers' issue. Because they thought they were getting a one. For years and years, we always blame the Pelicans. It's the Pelicans. We've been here 3 years. Last year, he showed up out of shape. LeBron was ticked off. Frank Vogel, go ahead and blame Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel has a history of elevating bigs. Anthony Davis should be a top 3 big. He wants to shoot jumpers, and he shoot like 19% this year. Don't confuse it. Basketball's culture is interesting. It doesn't do a great job of developing leaders. Basketball's culture does a great job of developing basketball players. They find them early. There's a lot of people that develop them, care about them, work on them, and get them paid early. Basketball's culture does a great job to develop players. I would always argue football's culture does a better job of developing leaders. You're in college for multiple years, 4 and 5 years. You watch a culture at Alabama, at Georgia, at Oklahoma. Remember, Michael Jordan was not born a leader. But he had strong dad, Dean Smith, Phil Jackson, plus David Stern. His relationship with David Stern was very close. Then he had a great agent. So Michael had some innate alpha, but he saw what great leadership was because he went to college for multiple years and had a relationship with Phil for multiple years. Michael was a much better leader at the second part of his career than he was initially. He wasn't a great leader when he got to the NBA. Michael was a great player, but he was selfish and hard to get along with. And then he got Phil Jackson, who tapped into Michael's innate ability to lead. And it was magic, the best basketball player and team we've ever seen. But the Lakers have an issue. They thought they were getting a 1, and what they're getting is a 2. And now LeBron's 37 years old. So the Lakers have to find their next Kobe. Kobe's a 1. They got to find their next Magic. Magic's a 1. Shaq was a 1. Shaq was rough on. Shaq would get in arguments with Kobe. And that's why the Lakers were so unique. Shaq and Kobe were both 1s. I covered Scottie Pippen. Scotty's a 2. Kevin McHale's a 2. It's not just physicality. It's not just your talent. And so, Shaq, everybody wants to fire Vogel now. Vogel loves bigs. He's got a big. Giannis loves being a big. Andre Drummond, Joel Embiid, they love being bigs. They love using their body. Anthony Davis, they make fun of his dad bod. He don't want to work out. They want to put the time in the weight room. Here's Shaq last night.
AD has to dominate. Because Chuck said he's supposed to be one of the best players. I agree with the great Charles Barkley. He's not playing like that now, so he has to pick it up. Forget about what Russell Westbrook and Carmelo is doing. AD has to be the number 2 punch, and when LeBron isn't there, AD has to be the number 1 punch. If you're shooting that bad from the three-point line, that's telling me one thing. Get your ass in the post where you belong.
He doesn't want to. Kawhi, Harden, and AD. We always said this about Kawhi. He's the best get a basket and get a stop guy in the league. So you think he's a 1. And he was great when he joined the strong Spurs culture and the strong Raptors culture. Then he went to LA and they said, we're going to build around him. No. That's not what he does. No. When he joined 2 excellent cultures, he's unbelievable. Get a basket, get a stop. But you got to talk and be verbal. And you got to communicate. And you got to elevate others. And you got to be physically available. Kawhi and AD aren't. Should be 1s, they're 2s. Now go find your next one.
I like Kyle Hurd. What is his name? I just call him Colin Hurd. But listen, he's normally right, and he normally has great takes. And this one was one of the great takes. Moving on. I want to talk about Charles Barkley's comments.
For the first month of the season, y'all blame everything on Russell Westbrook for the Lakers putting all them old-ass geezers together, and y'all blame Westbrook. Now I hear y'all gonna fire Frank Vogel. Cool. Listen, Anthony Davis, you got to play better. I said on this first night, if the Lakers were going to be any good, it was all going to be on you. You're 27 years old. You're supposed to be in your prime. You're supposed to be one of the 5 best players in the world, up there with Giannis, Kevin Durant, and those guys. And you ain't holding up your end of the bargain.
So Charles Barkley mentioned that everything is boiling down to AD. He blames AD for the team's inconsistency, saying that AD needs to play better and AD needs to be better all around. Charles Barkley is right, ladies and gentlemen.